No, no, 400 for the deductible. Yeah, that's what the deductible is, and then $300. Yeah, so we do have to put the side on the spot. I
Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to our live stream tonight. This is sort of impromptu thanks to a class that I had put on Tuesday evening and a wonderful conversation I had with a person yesterday. I decided, I'm going to go ahead and put this information out there. I'm going to throw a bunch of information out and we'll see what sticks. But what I first need to do with each of these live streams is to take it back to why am I doing this in the first place? And the best way I know to start is to describe the title. Now, I had to come up with something, and it's unfortunate that this isn't all encompassing and that it also is kind of hard to really grasp exactly what the nature of this presentation and what these 4 weeks are going to be about just based on this title itself. But I had to come up with something, and I'm excited to share the information with you. It's anchored in principle, that which will not change today, tomorrow, yesterday. It's all the same. And everybody has their own idiosyncrasies and little nuances and individuality and your shape, your experiences, your talent, your ability, your personality. There's all these different moving parts. And what we do have in common is that we know that so much of who we are and what we are and where we're going is really invisible, isn't it? You know, there's 3 kinds of intelligences. It might be more, but for our purposes here, we're going to be talking about the 3 intelligences, 1, 2, 3. There's innate intelligence or inborn intelligence. I used this example on Tuesday night. The DNA that's inside your body stretches to the sun and back 4 times. 4 times. Wow. Okay? So your heart beats, your enough blood over the course of a lifetime to fill 37 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Your kidneys are among the most complex filtering systems in the entire world. And it's really incredible if you stop to think about it. And really, that's our secret ingredient for getting all the results that we have here is a person's inborn healing potential or innate intelligence being better expressed when we remove nerve interference. We stimulate nerves to heal here. That's all I do. And we do it well. We get rid of nerve interference, add time to that with the specific adjusting and people holding their alignment better and better. That's how we get our results, okay? So there's inborn intelligence. There's also educated intelligence. You're using your left side of your brain and you're integrating the right side based on things that you learned from the past. That's what learning or educating is, or should be. It's giving you information and letting you kind of digest it and tie it together and really own it and grasp it. And so there's educated intelligence. You already know what that is. But the third kind of intelligence is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. And, artificial intelligence is really patterned off of innate intelligence. And so you see this sort of USB cable. In fact, let me see if there's a logo on this right here. I got my thing charging. No, I haven't. But in your car, this little USB connection device, there's a 3-pronged symbol. I better plug this in before my device runs out of battery. But what I did here in this case is I added a 4th prong to it, and you'll understand why in a little bit. But essentially, people, they come here to feel better. They're usually because they're in pain, but they're delighted to experience and realize some of these hidden benefits, some of the more subtle healing improvements, such as better posture mobility, better mental clarity, better stress adaptation, and better sleep and energy. So we're dedicating these next 4 weeks to each of those aspects. So you divide them into 4, and that's how we got these little symbols underneath. The guy in deep thought here, and then creating peace over here, and then posture and mobility, and sleep and energy, and so on underneath. So let me tie it back to kind of how I thought of this class in the first place. Today's going to be a little bit longer than the next 3 weeks just because I have some background information I want to get to you. But maybe a year and a half ago, it was kind of a sad moment for some reason. I just was in a sad mood. I don't know why. But I just looked over at the bookshelf and I saw all these different books. And, I thought it just dawned on me that I don't know if I could give a book report to my 3rd grade class on any of these topics from any of these books and sound intelligent. Or to be able to get an A or we graded on a 1, 2, 3, 4 scale, probably not even that at that point. But, it's kind of like, wow, I put all this time and money and I take notes in the margin and things. And then I had this strange peace overcome me. And the thing that I said in my head was, it's not my job to stand up and give a book report. My job is to connect one idea to the next. And then I thought, wow, that really kind of defies physics or math. Because, if I have 2 pens, right, 1 + 1 = 2. But if you have 2 ideas, you have your original 2 ideas, but depending on how you can combine them, you can have 3 or 4 or more ideas. And so I started drawing and I started doodling, and something really, really looked familiar to me. It looked like the things that I was describing to my patients in San Diego about how the body works. And hopefully we can see this. I'm going to come away from my leash here a little bit. I think that's on screen. So basically, here we have the C1, 2, 3 vertebrae, structurally the weakest link, located at neurologically the most important area in the spine. And that hooks up into the brainstem. And then there's the cerebellum, which is really Houston control, linking the brain, the upper brain to the lower body, the off-field general to the actual troops on the ground, so to speak. And then prioritizing the body's needs and regulating the balance of this part of the brain, the amygdala, which deals with stress and anxiety. The hippocampus, which is our cognition center, and that's mainly what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're not going to be talking about neurology, but we're going to talk about mental clarity. Hypothalamus, sleep and energy, and then the vestibular nucleus, which has everything to do with the posture and mobility. Now, I can only measure posture and mobility right away after the adjustment. I can't measure a person's mental clarity or their ability to handle stress right after the adjustment. But based on the way the nerve system is wired, and based on all these different testimonials, nobody just says, "Thanks, Dr. Petrick, I don't have neck pain anymore." It's always, let's just pick one out of the blue here. I was hunched over, I couldn't stand straight. Since starting, I can bend over without any neck problems, and I can finally lift my grandkids without pain. See? Posture and mobility. And so that looked really familiar to me. And one of the things that's part of this class here tonight is I'm going to recommend a paper journal, not just some computerized thing, because you can write out, you can make pictures and graphs and things. Here's some stuff that I was actually doing the other day. Quick little thing here. You know, there's people think in pictures, right? If I say Batman, you're not thinking Batman, right? So these symbols can be very, very, very powerful. So that really jived with things that I was drawing in here at the time, which is very profound, by the way, and I think actually led me to our decision to move back here to Minnesota. But one thing we'll talk about with journaling tonight is it's not just a place where ideas go to die. It's not just Dear Diary, speaking of die, Dear Diary, this is where my ideas are going to die. No, we write stuff down and then we can refer back to it to confirm that we're on a correct trajectory, so we can have confidence that, you know, we're moving in the right direction. And that reminds me of Stephen Covey. The first book I ever read that I didn't have to read was a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I'm still very intrigued by it because I'm have not mastered the 7 habits of highly effective people. And going back, I suppose, to the title of our talk here, creating masterpiece days. Well, that's an ideal thing. I don't know if I've ever had a masterpiece day. I want to have a masterpiece week. I want to have a masterpiece month and year. And I know that in order to do that, I have to be able to have a masterpiece day. I'm going to outline the 7 habits really quickly, but John Wooden, I think probably the best coach ever to live, hands down. He was a teacher and a coach at UCLA, but he said, make each day a masterpiece. Make each day a masterpiece. Boy, that guy knew what success was. In his college days, he sunk 134 straight free throws. He almost won 100 games in a row at UCLA back in the 70s. He won 10 or 12, I think, NCAA championships. The guy was incredible. He had a pyramid of stepping stones of what he called competitive greatness, but there was all these foundational things that had to be put in place. And it's convicting because, you know, even though we fall short of that, there is a standard that we can strive towards that is very, very clear. And Covey, I think, does a really good job outlining it. And so let me see if this resonates with you. Number 1 is be proactive. Number 2, begin with the end in mind. Number 3, set priorities. Do first things first. Number 4, think win-win. Set up win-win agreements with people. Number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Number 6 is synergize. Synergize. Okay, synergize, what he talked about was mainly developing relationships with other people that help to build you up and help to build others up, that will help you to continue to grow and grow. And habit number 7 is sharpen the saw. But when I think of synergize, I think of that idea of, boy, if we can combine one thing and then combine it with the next, then over time, if we realize these different if-then statements, if we can create the personal leverage, I know I should do that thing. I know it's beneficial for me. I used to do it, but for some reason I got out of habit, and I wonder why I'm not clicking as much as I used to, and I'm not doing these other healthy habits and so forth. And so what we want to be able to do as part of this 4-week series is to just kind of see conceptually that we can be empowered, we can have an authentic, organic, inside out. This is another Covey point. There's so much going on in the world, right? And so easy to be concerned with so much that we don't have control over, right? There's actually what we have actual control over, that we can have an influence on, and that we are actually concerned about. But he says that, hey, if we focus on that which we can actually influence, or that which we're actually in charge of, which is what happens between these two ears, then we can be expansive and have a greater opportunity for actually having an impact on these other areas that we are concerned about. And, you know, speaking of this shape of this kind of USB drive thing and all these characters down there at the bottom and algorithms and artificial intelligence, you know, this is everywhere in nature. This is a nerve cell. This is a nerve cell, right? This is a tree, and look at that. Below the surface is just as intricate as everything that's above the surface. Okay, now I gotta reach in here and I gotta grab this scroll. You sure you weren't supposed to see that? And okay, here we go. Got it. All right. And maybe I won't have that for my next one. But here it is. Check out your PDFs that I emailed to you. If you don't have that, if you were referred here on the live stream by a friend, simply send me a message and I will be sure to get you all of these PDFs. Yours probably don't have orange highlighter on certain parts like mine does. But there should be 4 pages. And let's go ahead and get into it right away. Okay, well, who is this? Well, that's me on the left. I guess on your viewing right, when I had hair. And that was about 25 years ago. And that's me and Coach Nelson. And the reason I'm showing this is because for some reason, culturally here, and it was this way 25 years ago and it still is, so much of a young man's identity, I guess, comes from sports. I'm not saying that it should be that way. I've got journal evidence to show that in fact it's not that way. That's why we should not have our identity in what the culture tries to put on us. That's a completely separate story. But you know, for me it was very important, and that's why my parents let me and my brother stay back in Minnesota while they went to San Diego so I could finish high school. He was my legal guardian. I was 17 and he was 20 at the time. But we had a really good coach. Sadly, we lost to Eden Prairie 2 years in a row, the state championship game. And I think there's some Eden Prairie folks on the live stream here tonight. Don't put any boastful comments down below. But I put that up here because, you know, football is a dangerous sport. And any good locker room speech is based in the fact that, okay, these people know that they're about to take the field, and if they have any sense at all, they know they can get hurt on any given play. If they have a healthy amount of fear. But what does that coach do? He takes that emotion and then he plays the opposites game, doesn't he? He plays the opposite game. He turns fear into courage. This gentleman, I don't know his name, but he used to be a coach at Georgia Tech. And he had this locker room speech. You can look it up on YouTube. Just type in there, Georgia Tech locker room speech, Notre Dame. And he said that he got his players all riled up. He said, "We're going to fight till we can't fight no more." And of course, the players were repeating him after this. Every line. "We can't fight no more. We're going to lie down and bleed a while." And they'd repeat after him. "Then we're going to get up and fight some more. And then the players say it with them, and of course they get all riled up. Then they go out and crush Notre Dame 33-3. See that? The emotion and turning it into the opposite. Playing the opposites game. That's why I think we like to watch. I mean, it's terrible to say, but sometimes we if you work out at the gym, there's like 10 TVs, and there's like 8 of them showing the world getting blown up, or somebody got shot, or some bad news story, right? But they know that they know artificial intelligence knows what we gravitate towards. They know our buying behaviors, because some reason we're more likely to click on the negative story or the fear-based one, maybe because we play the opposites game in our own mind and walk away from it saying, oh, I'm glad my house isn't on fire, or I'm glad nobody got shot on my street today, or I'm glad, you know what I mean? It's crazy. I think it's a human nature thing. It's good to be aware of it so that we can, in a healthy way, get our variety in life in ways that will propel us forward and not keep us stuck in this sort of fear state, because when we are, we're more likely to respond to the advertisers, the merchants, and the credit card companies to buy what we don't necessarily want or need to impress people that we maybe don't even particularly like, with money that we might not even necessarily have. Just a good little reminder going in towards the holidays. So remember now, we're taking and playing the opposites game. Now, the most empowering thing on this line spectrum right here is taking stock of our feelings, okay? Now, if you've never journaled before, what I'm gonna suggest is to try to journal, and you gotta start somewhere, and just try to start from the emotion. Understand what emotion you're experiencing right now. You might not think that you have a predominant emotion, but you do. You do. If you go through a list, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but that's fine. One of the attachments was called Negative Emotions, A to Z. Now, before social media, people would send chain emails. Remember those days? People send a joke, and most of them were kind of annoying. Well, I got this one email one time from somebody, and it was really good. And I made myself memorize it. And they were feelings. It was a list of negative feelings: anxious, blue, crushed, depressed, empty, fearful, greedy, hesitant, insecure, jittery, know nothing, lonely, mortgaged, nervous, overwhelmed, perplexed. You get the idea. It goes through the entire alphabet. And there was a positive statement as the reciprocal, or as the opposite of that. And for some reason, it's easier for me to identify with that negative emotion, and then I could understand how I got led to that negative emotion, because it's our thoughts that create our feelings. And it's our feelings, it's that subconscious part of us that really runs our life, right? When we're on autopilot, when life kind of bumps into you, what spills out of you when you're not even thinking about it, that's based on our feelings. So the best way to take stock and to have control over this is to grip in the middle, just like a javelin thrower would, right? He or she wants to throw it as far as possible, but they also have to have a certain trajectory above the wind, if you will, so that it can get the farthest distance and score the most points. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to score points. I'm not a very good surfer, but in San Diego, there'd be surf contests, and which is where you might know I was in practice for several years, and going to be coming up on 19 years already. And you know, to score points in a surf contest, you ride out the wave for as long as possible, you combine maneuvers as difficult as possible, and then you're judged on that. Well, I got news for you. You got one life, you got one wave, you're riding on it right now. How many combinations of maneuvers are you doing right now? What's the degree of difficulty? Did you compromise something? I had a person I was talking to the other day. Oh, she can't, reach down and do this certain thing anymore. And I said, you got to try to get back to that, because here's what happens. You're in your 60s right now. You compromise, you go back on that. You're going to sacrifice that. You're not going to be able to do that very well, even if you felt good, because you're going to be stiff. You're going to lock up. As we get older, there's a higher likelihood of falling and breaking something and then having a decreased quality of life from there. So make sure you look over this negative emotions attachment and let us continue. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this PDF here. It says strange shape. It's 8.5 by 14 when it's printed. And we're going to skip around here a little bit. But basically what we're looking at here is algorithms. Algorithms, Ray Dalio, I think he's like a 7-time billionaire. He said that algorithms are the most important language for the 21st century. And then this other guy, I can't even pronounce his name, he said something like, teach your children algorithms because it's the most profitable skill to learn, to create algorithms. And what is an algorithm? It's a simple if-then statement. If something happens, I'm going to do that. If I wake up, well, I probably have to go to the bathroom right away. But after that, I'm going to go down, I'm going to make breakfast. I know that if I have good sleep, because I followed the algorithm the night before of not having a device on and subjecting myself to blue light for an hour right before I go to sleep, then I'm probably going to sleep better, and that sets me up for a good first hour of my day, and so on and so forth. Okay, but it's a very general thing, but it's very profound as well. The key is that you take it and you individualize it and you internalize it through the practice of journaling is what I'm going to suggest. And here's why. Not only is it good for the hippocampus and mental clarity, right? We talked about the hippocampus being one of the parts of the brain that gets integrated when we do our adjustment here. But unlike a crossword puzzle or Sudoku, which I don't find that they're very interesting. I'm sure it passes the time. It's better than doing a lot of other things with your free time. It does keep you sharp, certainly. But again, those things are certainly better than watching a bunch of negative stories for an hour on the news. But you are a lot more interesting than what's happening in the news. You're a lot more interesting than question number 13 across, okay? And Sudoku, I don't even know how to play that. But journaling, and this isn't based in research or anything, but I can't think of anything else that can help to sharpen our human endowments, that which makes us different from animals, based on a certain part of our brain here in the front. Namely, these endowments, our ability to reason, our ability to intuit, our ability to look at our perception from a third person and how we would, act in different situations, if-thens, right? Our willpower or our won't power, our imagination, and our memory. All these things are cultivated by journaling. Wow. And not just journaling for, it's the end of the day, I gotta do my assignment and journal. No. I happen to think that, and I have a passion for this, and I'm telling you, this is authentic. I want you to understand, this is inside out. That's why I really want to share this information, but it jives with science, and it jives exactly with what we're doing when you come here through that innate and inborn intelligence with the educated and the artificial and so forth. But I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought there a little bit. But I do want you to understand that this is, okay, so here it is. One of the things that I had journaled, or a lot of things that I had journaled on, was from the book of James in the Bible. And everyone used to call me Jim. All my relatives still probably call me Jim. But I'm James now, okay? So I'm James. And that's what it says on my birth certificate, so I really appreciate that, because one thing I was thinking about with these negative emotions and stuff, the first verse in James chapter 1 verse 1 says, Count it joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance develops character, and really that's what it's all about, I think, in the long run, is the development of our character while we are here in this lifetime. Now, I'm not going to make this a spiritual, biblical thing or whatever, but I do want you to know that this is authentic when I say that you have a trial right now. You have certain negative emotions right now. And you know what? It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay? It's so resourceful for you to take stock of these emotions. You don't have to put them in memory, but go through this list. Go through this list and don't get off, oh, I do feel like this, so that's the one that I must be. No. Look at the whole entire thing. Which one do you resonate with most? Which negative emotion? And think it through. Which thoughts led you to that? Why do I feel that, right? What am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? And what does it mean? That's a profound line of questioning, right? And it's because our feelings determine our actions. So that's how we set goals, is based on the images that come to mind as we are thinking about these things, and that's what I'm suggesting that we journal on. Okay? So, let's wrap this up with outlining our formula, and I'm sure there's other systems, but you know, this has worked for me, and I think it'll work for you as well. So here's the method. Capture the feeling, the emotion. Like I said, why do I feel this way? What does it mean? Okay? Scan, right? Begin with a simple question, like how they gave the answer in Jeopardy. They answer the question with the question, right? So the question might be, how will my time be best spent next summer, for example? And this will get into more of next week on like how to meditate on your journal entries, thus taking each step of your flow, your diagram, and solidifying it and being more empowered that way. And the other thing with journaling, okay, so it's capture, scan, and connect. Connecting two or more meaningful ideas, which can lead you to even another journal entry. So the assignment for this week would be to get a journal, and you can even get a little composition book. But I do recommend that it's soft, because if it's hard, the binder thing is going to rip off. I like the thing with the elastic right there, and I like 1 or 2 ribbons as a marker, and I have a couple at home that I would have the ribbon be where I've left off at. If I have an idea that I want to write down, I'll pick up right there, and I'll usually write the date. And then I'll have another ribbon where I like to spend time on Sundays just reading through maybe 15 minutes worth of journal entries and put a little line in the margin of something that really strikes me, and then connecting this one idea with the next. And you know, the good thing about journaling, consistency is great, but don't feel bad if you don't string a bunch of days together, right? That's one reason that people tend to get off of a workout program, is because they feel, well, I don't have the leverage yet. I can't quite see myself being there, on this schedule for so many weeks, so I'm just not going to go ahead and start. The cool thing about journaling in this way that I suggest is starting with that emotion. Just go through the scan whichever emotion, or think about which movies make you cry. That coach for Georgia Tech, one of the other things he said is, I know your heart, I know what makes you happy, and I know what makes you cry. And it's an honor and a privilege for me to come down to the Georgia Institute of Technology, not because of brick and mortar, but because of flesh and blood. And it's that invisible aspect of you, not that 5 foot or 6 foot, whatever hunk of cells that you are, that we're after here. We're after that vision, that thing that will pull you as you push. Now, if you have an off day, that's fine. Don't get frustrated. It's fine. Because here's the thing, when you go back to journaling, and let's just say 3 weeks or a month has passed by, and you go back and you look at some of those old journal entries, you forgot some of them, didn't you? You forgot some of it, but that's fine. You know why? Because you're going to read those and it's going to be completely relevant for something that you're going through right now. And it's going to confirm, it's going to be, okay, yeah, I should do that thing or I shouldn't do that thing based on my trajectory, based on that javelin, based on this wave that you've either consciously or subconsciously been riding out for 30, 40, 50 or so years, or more, or less. And so I got through most of the material that I wanted to today. I know it was a lot of material. We could go into a lot more detail, but that's why we have the PDFs. Read through that. If there's something in particular that you liked, please send me a message. Give this video a thumbs up. Share it with somebody else that you think could benefit. Write a comment down below maybe what your favorite part was. That way I know for future communications. Next week, we're going to be talking, as I mentioned, about a system of meditating and how to do that in order to improve your life. And then so that would be more of the amygdala part of the brain, or the stress adaptation, right? We can't put a clear line between any of these segments because they really all blend together. It's all integrated. And really that's what we're after. And that's what it says right here at the top of this handout, if you can see that. It says resilience, optimism, and integration. Resourcefully creating a wonderful ROI, return on investment for you, based on these 3 intelligences: artificial intelligence, educated intelligence, and inborn intelligence, right? We're tapping into your resilience in chiropractic. We are integrating the brain to body, or these 4 key areas of the brain that we're talking about in this series. Why? To get you out of pain? Well, yeah, but ultimately to optimize you, to upgrade you, to make you be firing on all 4 cylinders where you naturally have it. You're thinking clearly. You're not stressed. You have wonderful posture and mobility because you're in your element. You know you, right? Here's another. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not result 100 the fear. You need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. We want to know ourselves better. That's what this is all about. Getting an incredible ROI, preparing for an awesome 2023, working towards masterpiece days. And I'm so glad to be able to start this journey with you. I will see you right back here next week. Again, if you didn't get the PDFs, make sure you send me a message and I'll get that out.